This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at a pretty cool tablet. This is the Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition. Yes, it is 2013 right now, but it's called the 2014 edition. So this is the second generation of the 10.1-inch Galaxy Note. Big improvements here, particularly the resolution. Much higher resolution display, better looking design, I'd say. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, finally, the refresh of the Galaxy Note 10.1 Android tablet that we've been waiting for. And it's a good one. Samsung really heard what we were hoping for. 2560 by 1600 resolution display right here. Same as the Nexus 10. I know for a lot of you it was a real close call between getting the Nexus 10 and getting the original Galaxy Note 10.1, and that high resolution really sold you on the Nexus 10. So now we don't have to compromise. We've got the S Pen with the Wacom digitizer built in, an active pen, and now runs at higher resolutions. Happily so. Nice compact form factor, as you can see right here. That's another improvement in my book. This has gotten smaller, a little lighter, easier to handle, about 1 1/3 pounds or so. Very thin, under 1/3 of an inch. Not quite as thin as the Sony Xperia Z tablet, which is 0.27 inches, but honestly, after a while, thin enough is thin enough, and that's what this is. You can see we have the faux chrome surround here going all around the edges, and that's one of my complaints. If they could just have gone maybe for brushed aluminum, it might have looked a little less tacky and genuine fake plastic kind of, thing going on there, but that is what it is. And also, one way that Samsung managed to make this a smaller tablet, not so long this way to this way, is by getting rid of the side front-facing speakers. Now, that's good and bad, right? We all love those front-facing speakers because, gosh, well, they faced at you so you could hear them better. But the problem was they made the tablet longer, side to side, and bigger, and everybody likes a smaller device, so, well, they're back on the side here. And these are the speaker grills. One on this side right up here. Happily, it's up towards the top because most of us do hold our tablet down here, so you're not going to block it with your hand. And the good news is the sound is quite good from here, so the compromise isn't that bad. There's our headphone jack right there. Up top, we have our IR window here. This has the usual watch on software and Samsung consumer IR remote, so you can control your home theater gear. Volume rocker right here, looking particularly plasticky, chromy. Gosh, Samsung, come on, at least fake out aluminum a little bit. Power button right here. There are little ridges on the side. They do help with the grip. Samsung said it went with that whole book metaphor. They're trying to make this thing look sort of like a book. Reminds me of what Lenovo did with laptops a couple of years ago, that hoping to make it look like a book. It doesn't look like a book to me, but it is grippy, so that's good. Here's our other speaker right here. Micro SD XC card slot. Works fine with 64 gig cards under here. And this is where our S Pen lives. And ladies, you will break a fingernail pulling that out. It fits in nice and tight. So there it is. Functions the same as all S Pens. They all will work except for the original Note was slightly different in terms of functionality. We have a button on the pen right here. Fits right in the silo. You won't lose it. Good times. Bottom, micro USB port. Surprisingly, unlike the Note 3 smartphone that came out at the same time, this does not support USB 3.0. It's just your standard micro USB 2.0 connector. But now for the big special treat here on the back. We have the new faux leather look yet again, just like we saw on the Note 3 smartphone. It's nice. It really is. You're not going to look at that and be really convinced that it's leather. It's injection molded plastic. Yes, it is. But it looks kind of classier. We have the faux stitching over here on the edges. And it's a lot grippier. It doesn't look so cheapy, cheesy, shiny as it did on the older Note model. So I would call that a vast improvement. And I do understand why Samsung likes plastics. They're light, they're flexible, all that kind of stuff. Back is sealed on this, unlike Note smartphones, so you won't be taking it off. And speaking of Note smartphones, here we have our white Galaxy Note 3. So you can see the difference between the white and the black. The black is a little bit more grippy and tactile, looks a little more convincingly like leather. It's up to you though. And to revive your memory here, this is the Note 8, a fine little tablet with pen. Also, this is the white model, so it doesn't quite shine as much, but this is what the back is like. Very slippery, shiny plastic. So give me the fake leather any day. And as I said, again, Note 3 here. Here's our S Pen from the Note 3. Works just fine on this too. So if you happen to buy a different Note product, the Note 3 smartphone, Note 2 smartphone, or the Note 8 in the house as well as this one, you can interchange the pens. On the front we have capacitive touch buttons. You can see they're lit up right now because I've just touched them, and the backlighting goes off after a specified either 1.5 or 6 seconds, and a center mechanical clicky home button. So that means you're not giving up any screen real estate like you would say on the Nexus 10 where you have the on-screen buttons instead. So I'm not going to complain about that. More screen real estate is a good thing. So I think the centerpiece of this upgrade is going to be the lovely new display where everything is just sharp and beautiful on here. It's a lovely, lovely screen. Again, 2560 by 1600 pixels. Nice high resolution, matches the Nexus 10. I think it's going to be the new standard in resolution for higher end 10-inch tablets. You can tell the difference. Yes, you can. If you're reading text, particularly on web pages, text is going to look a whole lot sharper on it. Photos are going to look much more beautiful. And though both the Nexus 10 and obviously the Samsung here are made by Samsung, the screen is a more color saturated kind of screen on this model right here. Samsung always has their way with settings, and they do things like increase saturation a little bit. Now this is not Super AMOLED. Super AMOLED displays do not get that big. Take a look at settings over here. You can see for our modes, we have reading mode here, by the way, which increases contrast and softens the whites a little bit. And for screen mode, you can go with adapt display, where it looks like at what's being displayed and adapts for you, or dynamic standard, which is the most common, shall I say, closest to lifelike and natural, and movie mode, which kind of increases contrast a little bit and warms things up a little bit. So while the Nexus 10 was not the most vivid looking screen, this guy is pretty nice. Really, I think people are just going to enjoy this an awful lot. Certainly it gives the iPad with Retina display a run for the money in terms of resolution and in terms of robust colors. The other exciting thing here is upgrade in CPU. Now, probably anybody with an original Note 10.1 wasn't saying, my gosh, my CPU is just inadequate, because it wasn't. It's fast enough, and they just keep getting faster anyway, don't they? Still, it makes us feel good to know that, and we're up to 1.9 gigahertz. This is a Samsung Exynos Octa CPU. What that means is you've got 2 sets of 4 cores, and it's a different way of handling things from Tegra, where they have the little low-power companion core and then the main cores. In this case, you have a bunch of ARM A15 cores, and those 4 are going to be your main heavy-duty processing ones. And we have 4 1.3 gigahertz lower power cores that are going to handle things when you don't have much going on here. It doesn't need any heavy lifting, so to speak. So it's really about the power savings. You don't have 8 cores running at once to give you faster performance than you've ever seen on anything before. No, it's just for the power savings. CPU inside is the Exynos 5420. That's a little move up from the 5410 used in the Nexus 10. It has Mali T 626 graphics inside, so capable fast performer. Occasionally I notice a little bit of lag and a little bit of jerk sometimes when it's just redrawing the screen and misses a screen tap. Samsung already pushed out a firmware update that's supposed to improve stability. I know some of the pre-release reviews were commenting on some of that kind of glitchiness, and it looks like they're addressing that now. It's certainly not a problem with the hardware. And honestly, even if, I like to pick on TouchWiz. It's pretty heavyweight. It can bog things down. Clearly with the Note 3, which has Snapdragon 800, which is similar processing capabilities, that never bogs down at all. So this is a software issue when that does happen. So that's something that Samsung can fix on it. And like I said, it's gotten a lot better. It's not doing the herky-jerky thing like it did so much before. Has 3 gigs of RAM, again, just like the Note 3. 2 gigs is usually the high end for tablets and smartphones, so 3 gigs is nice, but with all of Samsung's custom software in here, they need it. 32 gigs of storage on our model right here. You can also get it with 16 gigs. And by the way, the price has gone up by $50. So you're looking at $549 in the US for the 16 gig or $599 for the 32 gig. In either case, it's available in your choice of black or white for that back color. Battery capacity is increased a little bit in this guy. Again, the battery is sealed inside on this. 8,220 milliamps inside. That's up from 7,000 on the last generation Note 10.1. In practice, that for us has meant so far about 7.5 to 8.5 hours of screen on time, depending on how much multimedia and heavy-duty stuff we're doing. Now, if you play a whole lot of 3D games, if you're really into Nova 3, you're going to shorten those run times. If you spend a lot of time reading ebooks or web pages, it's going to be at the longer end of that. Now, some of you are interested in things like MHL. It does support MHL out through the micro USB connector, and it also supports USB host. I have a little USB host cable here, came from Amazon for about $5, some no-name one. Going to stick it into the tablet, and I have a flash drive here. Now I have tried 2.5-inch portable hard drives that take power from the USB port, and they spin up just fine, but the bad news is we don't have NTFS support here. Every single one said, sorry, unsupported file system. So that's unfortunate, since most big portable hard drives these days are NTFS. But our 32 gig USB 3.0 flash drive we're testing will work just fine. It tells us right up there USB connected, and it opens up the My Files file manager, that's Samsung standard file manager, so I can see what's here, USB drive A. I really don't have much on there this time, but this works fine. Again, with hard drives, you're going to need something like, well, FAT32, unfortunately. We all know that even mobile OS tablets, not Windows tablets in other words, can get kind of warm. The Nexus certainly could get, Nexus 10 could get kind of toasty if you're playing demanding games for a while. This one will get warm, I notice, particularly right in this spot right here. Not hot, it's not going to burn you. We're not talking like some Acer 1080p tablets that we remember that really could get your hands sweating, but it will get warm in this area. Nothing to worry about, not that level of heat at all though. Back here we have an 8 megapixel camera with an LED flash. I know some folks make fun of cameras on tablets, but the camera that's with you is the best camera always, isn't it? And it's not a bad camera. It's sort of, it's 8 megapixels and it has a pretty good amount of features. It's about comparable somewhere to around the Samsung Galaxy S2 to S3 camera. Not too bad. It does have HDR, and we have a nice 2 megapixel front video chat camera, so you get better than average quality for video chat. We wish that notebooks honestly would start using higher resolution cameras for the front so we don't look like grainy dark messes. Look pretty nice with this. In terms of software on here, we have everything in the world from Samsung, and I'll show you that stuff in a minute, but here, just overall, obviously every benchmark in the world I've installed on here. We will talk about benchmarks. As far as I know, Samsung has not cheated and tweaked benchmark scores on this, guys, they seem to be just about where we would expect, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, we've got our alarm clock over here. I've installed Sketchbook Pro, Autodesk's product. Now there is Sketchbook Pro for Galaxy on the Samsung Galaxy Note 3, and I was really hoping it would be on the tablet because I think a lot of people who buy this obviously are artists who like to sketch, but then again, probably folks at Autodesk said that's where our money's coming from. We're not going to give you that for free. Business Week is bundled here. New York Times is bundled on here this time around. Flipboard as ever. Samsung loves Flipboard. Oh, we have My Magazine too, where you can swipe up from the home screen and see a sort of very non-customizable version of Flipboard to catch up on news and social networking. All the Google apps are here. You've got your Gmail, you've got your email. We have both the WebKit web browser and Chrome on here. Of course, your Google+. Samsung software we'll talk about in a bit. So they haven't bloated it out too much, which is nice. Since this is a Wi-Fi only tablet, it doesn't have carrier bloat on it. That's always good. Twitter was preloaded on here. And Samsung software, we'll get to that now. They have their own custom video player as always. They have Watch On. That's your TV AV remote control and content discovery. That gives you TV listings, suggests things you should watch. Has on-screen remotes. Their scrapbooking application, it's actually kind of nice because you can snip and grab content from everywhere. You can actually save videos, you can save photos, you can grab pieces of web pages, so if you're researching a topic, it's useful. Samsung Apps is their version of the App Store. They have all their other applications in here, their own calculator. We have S-Voice for voice control, S-Translator, S-Voice. You know me, I'm really never too impressed with that. I like Google's voice control better. S-Translator actually does work pretty well. Samsung Link, if you happen to have one of the new Samsung ATIV books that supports it, you can actually transfer content between the two and have wireless screen sharing going on, which is kind of handy, so you don't have to get up and go to the other room. Samsung's Group Play, you know that from their phones. Knox for security, their File Explorer, their video editor. It's an okay video editor, not super duper great. Action Memo is part of the pen stuff, and I'll show you that. The pen software, by the way, is really just like the Note 3. If you've watched that video review, you've already got that down. In terms of custom widgets, they give you the S-Note widget. You can get rid of that if you want. It's just a giant space-wasting shortcut to S-Note, honestly. They have the New York Times widget set up by default. You can get rid of that again. A Twitter widget for Twitter Discovery, Bloomberg Business Week. That's my calendar up there. And your selection of widgets is right here. You've got your Task Manager, always nice to see. Sound control, alarm clocks. All the standard Google stuff is on here too. All the calendar views. Twitter stuff, clocks, more clocks. Evernote shortcut. That's interesting because it didn't come with Evernote pre-installed. Google Play stuff. You can get the idea. Picture frames. Samsung Hub, Samsung Apps. Of course, Samsung has their own media stores, so they'd like you to rent some movies from them, buy some music, that kind of thing. And of course, the clock and weather that you saw. Other Samsung software includes their AirView. It can use the front camera to keep an eye on you and not turn off the screen if you're staring at the screen. It works very well. There's a couple of goofy things where it tries to watch your eyes and scroll the page for you. You know, that doesn't really work too well. It can pause the video if you look away. These are all controllable via settings, so you can turn these things on and off. And it wouldn't be Samsung without multi-window over here. You see this whole long list of things that you can use in multi-window, which is split screen between two different applications, a web browser, likes to tuck itself away, S-Note here, the video player, Chrome, Gmail, Maps, YouTube, all sorts of stuff. So say I need access to my file manager, just drag it right down there, and well, I want to see my web browser too. Which would like me to register my Galaxy right now. So there it is, it's resizable between the two. On a 10-inch tablet, this is at its most useful, honestly, because these are both big enough that you can really see and interact, and you can do some clipping and dragging of content between windows now. A limited support for what you can do there, but nice to have. And make it as small as that if you want. So it's very customizable, it's very nice. And that's accessible via this little tab right here on the side. Now, if that little tab gets annoying, which sometimes it can, you really don't want to see that when you're playing a game, for example, you just press and hold the back button to make it appear and disappear, and that little tab is gone. Standard Samsung setup there. Now with the pen, we have the hover feature right here, so put the pen near the screen, click the little button on the side, makes a little sound. We can get to our Action Memo, which is the abbreviated version of S-Note. We have our Scrapbooker again, where you can pull in various kinds of content and save them to a file. We can search using the pen, we can do a screenshot and then annotate the screenshot, and then we have screen write right here. I'll show you. So it's just taking a picture, and I can circle something and whatever, make notes, that kind of thing. Useful if you've got a map, for example, up on the screen, maybe something like that, or if you're marking up a web page, a PDF, anything at all, it's kind of nice to be able to do that. Speaking of PDFs, the S Pen, which is, again, Wacom technology inside, pressure sensitivity, great for drawing, for more natural writing, very precise, small tip here. It's not like those fat capacitive stylus that you might use for an iPad or all the other tablets that don't support a digital pen, so much, much better experience there. And a lot of applications on Android now support it. So, for example, Adobe supports that with their PDF reader. You can make annotations, you can sign your documents using this pen. Very nice there. Several art programs are Wacom aware, including Autodesk Sketchbook Pro that we saw there. There's others like Layer Painter, there's many notes applications. So it's not like you're stuck only relying on Samsung's applications to use this wonderful pen. Viewing angles, as you can see, are quite good, other than glare being a factor. And screen gets quite bright too. Now, the default auto brightness, first time you boot it up, it's going to run auto brightness, and if you're not in a very bright room, you're going to think this must be the crappiest screen in the world. It's auto brightness. It's really bent on power saving. Go ahead and disable it, set the brightness where you like. Anyway, let's talk about benchmark results for a minute. In Quadrant, it scored 17,914. These numbers are all going to be very similar to Tegra 4 tablets and to the NVIDIA Shield, so that's about where we would expect them to be, and also pretty close to the Snapdragon 800. 3D Mark Ice Storm, the Extreme Test, 9,332. The demo played at 35.9 frames per second. Antutu, 33,838. Graphics Bench, formerly known as GL Benchmarked, the 2.7 version of that program running the Egypt 2.5 off-screen test, so that's independent of resolution, 66 frames per second. All very good numbers for those of you who follow benchmarks. Good stuff. SunSpider, not that impressive, using the WebKit web browser, which is actually usually a little faster than Chrome for that test. That was 1,050. Lower numbers are better there, so we've seen some in the 800s as about the best on Android, so I'd like to see that improve a little bit with some JavaScript optimization or something there. It's not that hideous a number either, it's just fine, and web browsing is a pleasant experience. Speaking of web browsing, we'll test out using the WebKit web browser, and here you can see the on-screen keyboards like. Always a nice effort from Samsung here. Numbers up top, all sorts of alternate symbols, so you don't have to be hitting the symbol button all the time. Access to voice input right here as well. We got a www shortcut. which switches to a .com shortcut. Very clever there, isn't it, once we actually enter the www. Loud and clicky here. You don't have to have it make sounds, but it does help. By default, this being a Samsung product with TouchWiz software, it's going to bloop and make all sorts of little watery sounds every time you touch the screen until you disable that. So here we've loaded Mobile Tech Review. Looks beautiful. Nice vivid colors there. Very fluid zooming. Good experience right there. And we'll check out our Galaxy Note 3 review and play a video so you can see what that's like. Very sharp text here. I mean, right now it just doesn't get better than that. You're not going to see any jaggies, any haloing whatsoever. We're up in the 300s for PPI, so plenty enough that most of us with average eyes sitting 7 to 10 inches away will not see pixels. Halfway volume.
This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and another year, another fabulous phablet from Samsung. This is the Samsung Galaxy Note 3, obviously the third generation.
Looks great. Not the world's loudest set of speakers, but not cheesy or hissy sounding either. Definitely better than the lower end Galaxy products, the non-Note tablets. Now our camera application actually has a good set of features here. And it looks just like Samsung phones, recent ones if you're used to that. And you get all the modes here. So this is kind of fairly deluxo for a tablet, honestly. We have auto mode, we have the usual beauty shot, night shot, sports shot, panorama mode, eraser, so you can get rid of photobombing, HDR, the drama shot, which is pretty fun, sound and shot, so it actually captures a little bit of audio with your photo, best photo. Nice selection right there. We're going to leave it with auto right now, and you can control the flash, and we can get to even more settings over here. Flash control, whether we're recording, location tagging, white balance, exposure value. Video, we can record up to 1080p. I have turned video stabilization on. It's off by default. Trust me, a tablet is a big and shaky thing. You need video stabilization to be turned on. And we have burst photo mode taking here, face detection, metering mode, center weighted matrix and spot. Nice to have those. So there you go. We can tap to focus on little ducky. We can shoot photos while shooting video as well. And how about photo quality? Some of these aren't bad. Now I don't expect Mr. Ducky here to look too good, but it's not a bad shot taken outdoor. Look at all the detail in there, and the exposure is reasonably good. Not too much whiteout or anything like that. A lot of detail on the interesting flower there. It has bloom on the yellows, literally you can see that. The other details are pretty sharp, the green leaves. Color bias, a little bit wrong there, a little bit too cool. And our grass has been whited out completely there. So again, think about last generation smartphone camera and that's where you're at. So it's not going to be too bad. And a lot of detail right here. And not too much over sharpening really. Sometimes to get that effect of having a lot of detail, there's an obnoxious level of sharpening. Not so much. So not too bad. So for pen stuff, first we're going to look at S-Note, which is Samsung's built-in note-taking application that has certainly grown up. We can switch between text mode if you actually want to use the keyboard, handwriting or drawing mode right here. We've got our eraser, and this is a selection tool. It looks like cloud. You might think this is cloud access, but it's not. But that's actually the selection tool right there, and undo and redo right here. And so we're going to stick with that, and you can see I can pick my colors and all that kind of thing. Right now I'm just going to be doing handwriting, so I'm going to just leave it with easy peasy black. And I'm going to undo the tap to the screen. There is palm rejection here. You can set it to ignore your hand. So look, I'm leaning all over the screen, right? I'm doing this. Nothing happened. Where my palm was, nothing at all. So now I'm going to write the word hello, badly as ever, select it, and here's my options. And I'm going to transform it. And you can choose shape, formula, text, shape and text. We're just going to go with text in this case. Worked just fine. Now we'll go for, oops, and now we'll go for formula. So for you science types, there it is, awesome. And you can resize this box, you can move it around. It's improved a lot. So the handwriting recognition is good, it's pretty quick, nice stuff. And of course you could use this for drawing too. Your selection of pens is not exactly wild here. You've got pen, you've got pencil, you've got a paintbrush, another kind of paintbrush, and a magic marker. So it's basic stuff. Let's switch to a pencil and let's choose orange, because orange is still my favorite of the week. And you can see the latency is pretty good. It's not lagging behind, and as long as you're using an S Pen, the cursor is going to stay pretty much right directly under your pen. If you use some of the Wacom Tablet PC enabled pens, you might notice an offset, but it's pretty darn quick. Now we'll look at a more serious art application. So now we're inside Sketchbook Pro, and we're working on our cute little cat over here, and you can choose between these pens. Obviously, we're not really telling you about this application particularly, but switch back to the pencil. I've been using a little airbrush on our friend right here. And again, you can use this in pen-only mode, so it will ignore what your hand is doing in terms of touching the screen. So it works well. It has pressure sensitivity. So for your art types, this is pretty enjoyable. It's nice. We'll give them some orange highlights with the airbrush. Look a little bit more colorful. You get the idea. So it works just fine. So for those of you who are interested in artwork and like to work with a particularly large canvas, obviously the Note 10.1, especially among Android tablets, is going to be one of your few choices. Now if you want to look at Windows tablets, you can get those with digital pens generally using the same Wacom technology as well. But among mobile OS tablets, the Note is really it. Now we'll test out Riptide 2 for some gaming here. Certainly nice colors on the screen. It's so sharp. Boy, you can see the detail. You can see the tiles that are underneath the waterway. Smooth. I'm seeing good frame rates here. I'm not seeing anything too weird at all. Certainly. Oops, missed my ramp. We've got our water splashes on the screen. So it's playing very nicely, as it should. And you got a nice fast full 4 cores running when you're playing a game like this for the A15 cores. Do some water tricks and it's still keeping up with the frame rate. Looks great. Definitely a go for gaming here. So that's Riptide GP2 on the 2014 edition of the Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1. So that's the Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1 2014 edition. It ain't cheap, but it is nice for those of you who liked the Nexus for its high-resolution display, but wanted that pen experience or some of the Samsung TouchWiz apps that are on here. Finally, your day has come. It's available. Nice looking tablet, fast tablet, a couple of quirks here and there, but I'm sure Samsung's going to iron those out. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to hit that like button.